Ciao, friends.
Ciao, friends.
Wh- Should we do together?
Who was expected to say ciao, friends? You?
Together?
Me?
No.
Let's do it together.
Okay.
3,
Three,
2, 1.
Ciao,
Ciao, friends.
In this special Unplugged video, we want to talk about our experience of producing Optimizing DAX. We completed the first stage of production for the new second edition of Optimizing DAX, and the idea is to...
I think this is already important.
Yeah,
That's the first stage.
yeah,
We are publishing today the training, but it's not yet completed.
yeah, not completed.
The thing is, it's massive. It's absolutely massive.
But Alberto, I want to use this Unplugged to share some of the lessons we learned, because
Yeah.
at the moment, at this stage, we completed the import mode, the Vertipack mode.
Yeah.
We still have to complete the direct query and the composite model.
You know what? They probably don't even know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So let's start with a brief introduction. We just finished the first part of Optimizing DAX. This is by far the most advanced, complex, and cool training that we have ever recorded. And I think that the most important thing is that we learn so much just by recording the videos and preparing. There's also a book, right?
That's a book that we will publish later. So at the moment it's still a draft of the book that we will provide to the students of the video course. So the idea is to publish a physical book once we complete the entire training. And yeah, I mean, it has been a long journey so far, because I think that we started
More than a
1
year ago.
Yeah, yeah. It took a while because we actually had to study a lot.
Yeah, I remember in the what's next of the previous year, 2022, you said, well, in a few months we will publish the new training about optimizing DAX. And no, 1.5 years later, we are still here. But the new training is about the formula engine and then the different storage engines that we have: Vertipack, direct query, composite models. The thing is, just with the Vertipack part, we have a massive amount of videos, and we thought it was useful to share it immediately, not wait.
Yeah. That's
Before the
the
end.
idea is that it took many months of just research and development, right?
Yeah,
The
a
time
lot of it.
to understand all the details of the DAX engine, the query plan, and there is a huge amount of undocumented part of the engine that we try to not to document. We don't have access to the source code, but by observing the behavior and by analyzing the query plans and the information we can gather, we try to provide the best possible source today that explain what is happening. And yeah, when we realized that we still needed other few months to complete the direct query and the composite model part, we realized that what we built so far is already a huge improvement of the first edition.
Yeah.
And not only because we have a new version of DAX Studio, but also because the content is actually much more complete and up to date, I would say.
And I think we improved DAX Studio too.
Yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to share. So I think that if you look carefully at the video, you will see that we use different versions of DAX Studio
Over time.
And actually what happens that at a certain point we said, oh, we need this feature because we're losing too much time for this demo. So we improved DAX Studio during the preparation. Luckily, mostly during the preparation. So most of the time probably it's not visible in the video, because we actually had to rewrite or refactor the screenshots of the book because we changed the user interface of DAX Studio
So many times.
Yeah.
But that was a huge work, and it's way better now. So that the version of DAX Studio that exists today is way better than the previous one. Now, the goal of the training, because maybe people are interested in what they will learn, is to learn all the details about the DAX engine. We basically put all what we know.
Yeah.
We didn't remove anything. We learned a lot.
Yeah.
We
Probably too much.
Yeah, and that I agree, because during the first stage, when we were preparing the content, we were just writing stuff to learn, writing stuff to understand the most obscure details of the engine. And I remember a lot of discussion like, well, this is too advanced. Nobody's going to be interested in this. This is just too complex for anybody. This is not so useful. We are probably going to cut it from the final product. And then we didn't cut anything at all. We just put everything there.
Maybe a couple of pages. No, yeah, probably.
No, I
probably
don't think
much,
not even a
not
page.
much.
So sorry for you guys. But if you are going to learn this, it's going to be
Yeah.
a lot of time, a very important investment in terms of time and effort in order to understand all the details.
But I think that is not, I mean, one of the reactions, sometimes I try to ask myself, is it really necessary? Do you really need to know this level of detail? And the answer is, of course, it depends. Probably not for many day-to-day work, but there are, when something doesn't work as you expect, now you have a chance probably to investigate in a deeper way without relying on, oh, it is what it is, right? We discovered that you can always hijack the query plan, obtaining the result that you want, at the cost sometime of writing not very maintainable DAX code. But there is always a way to get something better and to always stay below the 2-second limit that we say is a query should always be faster than 2 seconds.
What I think is important is that there are a lot of details that people will probably forget.
Yeah.
So you look at the demo, you get a feeling of what is happening, and you are going to forget about the tiny details. But having seen them once at least, if it happens to you, you have more ideas to explore. You have maybe something to say, oh, I remind about these details. Let me go review the video again and discover something more. And then I'm pretty sure, I'm totally sure that we haven't covered all the possible aspects, all the possible optimizations, because
but
new ideas will
I think that
appear.
the interesting part for the Unplugged is, some behind the scenes story.
Yeah.
Like, because of course, if you're interested into the training, you just go to the page, you get some trial and you watch some videos, some of the free video, you can look at the table of content. So everything is there. But probably something is, why did you need so much time to produce a video course that is a limited number of hours, even though it's massive, but it's not an infinite amount of time. So what happened during the production, during the research and development?
Well, the hardest part was, first of all, understanding. I think we optimized tons of DAX code over the years, but there were, hopefully, a lot of details that we actually didn't know. I don't even count the number of times that we called each other saying, have you ever seen this? How is this even possible? Why this scan is lower than this other one? And hours spent trying to figure out the reason why. And then, to me at least, the hardest part was finding examples. Because you see a behavior, like you run a query, it doesn't run as you expect, and now there's a problem. Then you isolate the problem, you find it, and then you need to find an example that makes it clear.
Yeah, and I think this is an important point, because you often have, this is a question I receive often, is oh, you always use Contoso. The word outside is not Contoso. We know that, but actually this is the issue. By using always the same simple model, we create examples that are easy to digest without having to spend a lot of time just to understand the scenario. So the scenario is always the common one, the same one, I would say, which make it easier to focus just on the problem we want to solve. And what Alberto said is that reproducing an issue that we have seen in a large model, in Contoso, in a version of Contoso that we can just tune in terms of number of rows or something like that, sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes it was hard to reproduce the problem so that it was easy to demonstrate in a demo.
or make it evident no matter what hardware you have. Because one issue we had, and we spent again a lot of time trying to figure out how to make it work, is that your hardware is different than mine.
Oh, yes.
So a query that runs faster on my computer actually is slower on yours, and the opposite holds true. So it's always a matter of finding an example that hopefully people will be able to reproduce.
Yeah, I think it's useful to explain. For example, Alberto has many more cores on his desktop, but they have a slower clock speed.
Yeah.
And I have the opposite situation. I have a more recent CPU that is faster, but I have a lower number of cores. And so we have seen that sometimes we weren't able, I mean, the conclusion would have been different because we tested the same demos on different machines. And actually, this is something that was useful because actually what we made in the training was exactly to explain that depending on the hardware, the outcome would have been different. Of course, we're talking about extreme optimization here, not the common one.
But sometimes important. I remember a lot of comments that came back where I see, obviously, by changing the code this way, you obtain much better speed. And the comment was, not really. On my PC, the previous version is faster. I say, okay, so we need to investigate further, and there's something more to understand, which makes it so interesting.
So, and I think another thing we can share is that why did we write a book? Because I mean, that's an interesting story. So
we didn't want to write a book at the beginning.
Yeah, we didn't. I agree. But then we realized that with the need of writing the book, we had to be more accurate in many descriptions. When you just do a demo, you can hide the fact that you don't know exactly a few details, for example. So you say, oh, this is faster. You can choose, you can make a choice. Well, okay, this is better without spending too much time because after 1 hour, it's enough. This video is long enough. It's no problem. With a book, you don't have this choice. I mean, you can skip the problem, but we know if we do that for the coming years, we will receive questions about that page. We know that as a fact. I mean, this is guaranteed.
We will receive that anyway.
Yes, but especially if you do something intentionally, you will be, you will be catched.
But then, I mean, that's an Unplugged. We can share whatever. Yeah. The first video we recorded were basically a video about a training that we were already delivering in person. So we had a lot of experience on how to deliver content, how to run demos. I think I could train Mastering DAX with my eyes closed because I know everything about that training. But the problem appeared the first time with Mastering Tabular, the last training that we recorded before Optimizing DAX, where there was a lot of content to share and we never delivered that in classroom. So we didn't have experience. And we discovered that we had to script everything, to write down before recording in order to know what we were saying, because otherwise it would be impossible to remember all the details that we wanted to share. With Optimizing DAX, this is even harder because the content is so large that with a book, while writing a book, you can always go back, change the content and revise it time after time. So we had to be extremely detailed in what to share, what demo to run, what to say and what to avoid saying, because it was maybe too early to cover the content. So the script was so detailed that turning that into a book was actually the simplest thing to do.
Yeah, but I think that for Mastering Tabular, we didn't write a book because there is too much content that is related to the UI.
Yeah.
And so we know that the book could be outdated pretty soon, which is something we don't like. So publishing a book that must be reviewed every 2 years just because they changed the style of the dialog boxes or something like that doesn't make much sense. And
then I think giving the book to the students has a lot of value because you can watch the videos whenever, but if you have a question or if you want to just quick look at a piece of DAX code,
I had to tell you something I didn't tell you yet. I already started. When I have to find an I have to study a new model for an optimization for a customer. I already have the need to look into the book that is not ready yet. So sometimes I have a problem because I remember this. I remember this. I have to look for this, but I don't know which chapter.
Yeah.
And so now, because they are still different, you will get a single PDF. But at the moment, we have different files, one for each chapter. And so my first problem, what is the chapter? What is the chapter? Because I don't have a single file where I have everything. But otherwise, it would be easy. I would just do a search in the book. I know that, oh, I need to find, I don't know, call by date ID. Where is this? I remember that demo. And
Yeah, because I think that one thing that people don't actually know about us that we read our own books.
yes, all the time.
I mean, you write a book because you are expected to know the content, and that is true. But then there's so much that I tend to forget everything, especially when it comes. DAX pattern was born that way. We started writing DAX pattern website because we didn't want to reinvent the wheel every time. That's we were
true,
doing
but
at the time.
in this case, it's different. In this case, the problem is that sometimes you remember that you made a deep analysis of how the engine works in a particular condition. You remember that. You don't remember
But
the
you
outcome.
don't remember the details, of
Yeah.
course.
You don't remember the outcome, so you have to review the actual details about what was the result in different situations, what is the best practice for that. This is something I had to review because, okay, if we wrote it, we tested it. And so I trust what I wrote because I know that it has been...
We studied that all the time. Yeah.
Okay. So, any other...
I'm thinking about something fun to tell about this training, but actually,
A lot of work is not fun, I have to say.
yeah, a lot of the work. Well, no, writing the book was totally fun. Recording the video, that was kind of heavy. Sometimes
Yeah,
there's a lot of content.
preparing the demo is always complex, yes.
Preparing the demo is content and repeating the content when you make mistakes or just too many mistakes. Or when the numbers were totally not what we expected, because something that users will notice and students will notice is that the numbers we report in the book are not actually the numbers that we record during the videos. Because of course, while we are recording the videos, we have tools that are recording, we have a lot of software running that is eating CPU. So the numbers are never the same. And you might find some subtle differences between what is printed and what has been recorded. But again, the important thing is that the takeaway of the training is not a best practice, is not it's not a technique to optimize it, it's a technique on how to investigate on a problem.
I remember there is we can provide a spoiler. There is a chapter in the book, and we know for sure that people will open the book, skipping many chapters and going there directly. And this chapter is about
optimizing DAX constructs, how to optimize if, how to optimize switch.
And so we wrote a note at the beginning of this chapter saying, we know you skipped the previous chapters, you wanted to go to the meat in this chapter, doesn't work this way, go back, because otherwise what you are going to read in this chapter doesn't make any sense. So you have to read all the previous chapters, or in the case of the video, watch the previous videos, and then at that point you can actually it makes sense at that point to look at the examples we provide, because otherwise you get just a tiny fraction of the value of the course. The course doesn't teach you how to optimize this statement or this other statement. That is the result of the techniques that we described before. But we cannot just produce I don't know, thousands of examples. So we have to produce a finite number of examples that are just examples. So are just ways to optimize maybe common patterns, something that you will find often. But if you limit your optimization to those constructs, it's a very limited value, and you don't know what to do as soon as you have a model that is not contoso, which is indeed the examples that we provide to make it simple to focus on the problem.
Right now I'm thinking, do you think this training is harder or simpler than mastering DAX?
It's simpler because it doesn't introduce new abstract concepts that you have to understand deeply. Okay,
That's exactly what I was thinking about.
But the complexity of this training is that it makes sense only if you know DAX. So
of course,
because DAX is a prerequisite, you have to know DAX well. I mean, knowing DAX well is simple to. You have to solve a problem in DAX, then you have to write the same calculation in a different way, and then repeat this process for 3 or 4 times at least. If you say, no, I barely reach one way of writing DAX, I'm not able to write this in a second way, no way I do the third. So we have a problem, because the optimizing DAX means rewriting the code so that the query plan will take a different route. Okay, so in SQL or in other languages, you have other techniques. You add indexes or keywords, or you additional metadata. So there are techniques, aggregations, for example, in MDX. But these techniques don't make any sense for DAX. The problem is that you have to simplify the query plan by reducing the workload for the CPU. That's the technique. Sometimes it's simple common sense, just reduce the number of loops.
Yeah.
Other times is a little bit more complex because it involves how the engine works. And so when we put together how the engine works, how the segments are distributed in memory, how the distribution of data happens, how the relationships propagate the filter. So in a complex situation, you have to keep under control a large number of variables. So each element is simple, but the complexity in that case is not the concept that is difficult, but it's just the number of elements that you have to
bring
control.
Together. Yeah, that makes sense. I was thinking exactly the same thing. Mastering DAX is shorter in terms of time,
but it's harder.
But it's much harder, because I would expect people to watch 3, 4, 5 times the same chapter with Mastering DAX. I don't think this is actually needed for optimizing DAX. You can watch them once and maybe just go back to the ones that you find more interesting. But there's no new concept. It's just a lot of content.
This is true, but sure. I guess that like I opened the book because I need to remember how we did a few optimizations. I think that the same will happen with the video. So once you complete the training, once you go in a real model, you face a real situation where you have to optimize something. I guess that at that point you say, wait a minute, I need to do something like what I have seen in that video, and you rewatch the video. Yeah. Because probably you will remember in detail the kind of test you have to do, the kind of metrics you have to analyze, the kind of measure you have to gather to make a decision about what to do. Yeah,
I agree.
Okay, so I think it's enough.
We can close that.
Yeah, it's enough for. We wanted to share our experience. We're happy that we actually completed the recording. For this first part. We still have to do other modules about.
There's a lot of work still, but the first part is out.
But actually, by the end of the year, which is 2023, if you watch this in 2024, everything should be already published. But yeah, I mean, I hope that you will enjoy the Optimizing DAX training, and we would love to get also your question about what you would like to see in a future Unplugged, for example, talking about other details you would like to know about how we produce our content. So we will be happy to answer to your questions under the video, or maybe record a new video with a new interview. Okay?
Sounds good. So,
as usual,
enjoy DAX.